Okay. Got all that. All right. Ooh, that is a lot of wall. You'd think I would know how to put the camera at a proper angle at this point, but you'd be wrong. Okay. Hello. Oh, hello. Hello, bedtime dog. Hello. 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 All the way. Good girl. Good girl. Yes. Is that your little boy? Is that your little boy? Oh, that's a good girl. Yes. That's a good girl. Yes. That's so good. See? She wants to be with you all the time. That's so good. That's what you want. Yeah. Your whole job is to look after him. Yeah. It's true. And, you know, for a 9-month-old, she is doing really good with her service dog training. It's got battery. Oh, you're undressed. It must be proper. We're on a live stream, Mom. Okay. So we're going to continue with our read through the Berenstain Bears Storybook Bible. Why are you taking that off? Wait, why are you keeping it? Keep it on, huh? A little bit of stickies. That's why we have screen covers. Okay. Let's see. We read through to. I read through Moses. At least burning bush, crazy sheep. Pharaoh's like, Israelites leave. Okay, here we go. The 10 Commandments. Exodus 14. Are you ready? Are you ready? You're ready? Okay, good. Someone's ready. Okay. After the Israelites left Egypt, Pharaoh grew angry again. He changed his mind about letting them go. So he took his army and went after them. Moses led God's people to the shore of a wide sea called the Red Sea. He did not know how to get across. Then they all saw the army of Pharaoh coming up behind them. Moses lifted up his staff and asked God to help them. God parted the waters of the Red Sea, and the people were able to walk across. Oh, yes. Reach over so we can see it. Right? Okay. Well, at least the dog's paying attention, right? At least you're getting a good Bible study. Yeah? Maybe. We'll see. Once the people were across, Pharaoh and his men tried to follow them, but the waters came crashing down on the army, and they were destroyed. Moses and the people gave thanks to God for saving them. Look, see, there's a little doggy. There's a little doggy being saved. See, this pertains to you too. While Moses was leading the Israelites to their new land, they grew hungry and thirsty. Moses asked God for help. Pieces of bread called manna fell from the sky to feed the people. Moses struck a rock with his staff, and a spring of fresh water gushed out. The people were saved. Oh, that fish. Look at that fish. God led the Israelites to a mountain in the wilderness. There, God called Moses to the top of the mountain and said, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt. Then God gave Moses 2 stone tablets with 10 rules written on them. See, Moses had some tablets. And look, they say, 1, God is the only true God. 2, do not make statues of gods. 3, do not misuse the Lord's name. 4, rest on the Sabbath day and keep it holy. 5, honor your father and your mother. Don't make them get up off the couch 15 times. And maybe get a snack, maybe not. We'll see how we feel once we get to the kitchen. 6, do not murder. So Mommy remembers every time we go to the kitchen. Do not commit adultery. Do not steal. Do not lie. And never want what belongs to your neighbor. Samson, Judges 16. The strongest man in the land of Israel was Samson. He was so strong he could carry the gates of a town away on his back. He could kill an attacking lion with his bare hands. In battle, Samson could defeat whole armies with only an old bone for a weapon. Samson was in love with a beautiful woman named Delilah. They've kind of drawn like a hussy a little bit here, which, to be fair, she kind of was. The enemies of Israel told Delilah that they would pay her if she found out what made Samson so strong. So Delilah asked Samson to tell her his secret. At first, Samson would not tell her, but she begged him, and finally he told her that his strength was in his long hair. If his hair were cut off, Samson would be weak. One night, while Samson was sleeping, Delilah had someone cut off his hair. She called enemy soldiers to take him prisoner. Samson woke up and tried to fight, but now he was weak. The soldiers tied him up and blinded him. They took Samson to the temple of his enemies and tied him between two pillars. The temple was filled with people who made fun of him. Samson prayed to God, asking God to give him his strength once more. Samson's strength came back. Hey, calm down. What's wrong? What does this mean? Be gentle. What do you want? What you want? You want the dino cage? What are you doing? I don't understand. I might need some explanation on this one. You roll it back and forth on your back? Let's Billy. Maybe on your head. Yeah. Maybe on your back. Here, I'll put that right there for you, okay? Samson pushed against the pillars, and the whole temple came crashing down, destroying Samson along with his enemies. David and Goliath, 1 Samuel 17. David was a young shepherd in Israel. It was his job to watch over his father's flock of sheep. David knew that God was with him, so he was not afraid of wolves or lions. He used his sling to throw stones at these beasts to drive them away. Look, and he threw stones as boink because it hit him in the head. And that is a sassy sheep eating some grass. That, Meanwhile, I'm dying. David's older brothers went away to join King Saul, who was fighting the enemies of Israel. In the enemy's army, there was a warrior named Goliath. Goliath towered over all other warriors. No one was brave enough to fight him. Yes, Tootsies. Oh, look at them dirty Tootsies. We're going to have to shower before school tomorrow. Goliath went out between the two armies. Why don't you come fight me, he called. Pick one of your warriors to come out and fight me. Whoever wins will win the war. But no one in the army of Israel was brave enough to fight the giant Goliath. Ooh, there's a good Krakatoa. You can clip your toenails soon. One day, David's father sent him to take food to his brothers in the army. When David got there, he heard Goliath's challenge. David was not afraid. He knew that God was watching over him. Yeah. He told his brothers that he would go out and fight Goliath. But you're just a boy, laughed his brothers. David still said he would fight Goliath. King Saul heard about what David was saying and sent for him. He told David that he was too young to fight Goliath, But David explained that he used his sling and stones to drive off lions and wolves to protect his flock of sheep. He said he could do the same with Goliath. So King Saul gave David a man's armor, a big helmet, and a huge sword. But they were too big for David. He couldn't even walk in them. David took off the armor, helmet, and sword. He gathered some stones and, with his sling, went out to meet Goliath. When Goliath saw David, he laughed because David was only a boy. Am I a dog that you send children to fight me? He called. He raised his great spear to throw it at David. I don't know. I've seen you and Athena. You take on a dog easy. But David quickly put a stone in his sling and swung it around and around his head. He let it fly, and the stone struck Goliath right in the middle of his forehead. Boink! Wham! Goliath fell to the ground with a crash that shook the earth. Though David had struck down the giant warrior. With God's help, David saved Israel. David the singer, 1 Samuel 21 through 23 and Psalm 23. Before David fought Goliath, he helped King Saul in another way. It happened that King Saul could not sleep at night. Every night he'd lie awake, tossing and turning. Excuse me. It also happened that David was a good singer and harp player. Everyone who heard him said his music was among the best in all of Israel. King Saul heard about what a good singer David was too. He thought that listening to music might help him sleep. So King Saul sent for David. Every evening David sat by King Saul's bed and played soft music. The music made King Saul's eyes slowly close, and he fell asleep. And so we fall asleep, isn't it, with music. King Saul was very pleased with David and kept him with him in the palace. Later in his life, David was chosen to be the king of all Israel. He was a good king and a great leader of his people in battle. But he also kept on singing and playing the harp. He wrote and sang many songs, called psalms, in praise of God. One of the most famous songs of David is the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Esther the Queen. Esther 1 through 10. Long after the days of David, many Israelites were carried off to the kingdom of Persia to be slaves for the people there. The queen of Persia was a beautiful woman named Vashti. The king was very proud of her great beauty. The king asked Vashti to come to a feast in the palace and sit beside him. But Vashti did not want to sit with all the people, and she refused. This made the king angry. He decided he would have a new queen. He sent word out into his kingdom to send a beautiful young woman into the palace. He would choose his new queen from among them. Among the people of Israel was a man named Mordecai. He was a loyal servant of the king. He had an adopted daughter named Esther. Esther was the most beautiful young woman in all the land. Mordecai sent her to the king's palace to try to be chosen as his new queen. When the king saw Esther, he at once fell in love with her and made her his new queen. The king had an important helper named Haman. Haman was very rich and powerful, but Haman did not like Mordecai. He felt that Mordecai did not show him enough respect. So Haman decided to get rid of Mordecai and all of Mordecai's people. But Queen Esther found out about Haman's plan. She went to the king and told him that Mordecai had been a good servant of the king. Then she invited Haman to eat with her and the king. While they ate, Esther told the king that someone was planning to kill his servant Mordecai and all the Israelite people. The king grew very angry and asked who it was who dared to do this. Queen Esther told the king it was Haman who was plotting to do this. At once the king had Haman arrested and put to death. Queen Esther had saved her people. Okay, we got room for maybe 1 to 2 more stories. Daniel in the lion's den. Daniel 6. At one time, some of the Israelites were taken to the land of Babylon to be servants. The king of the land made one of the Israelites, Daniel, his chief servant.
Kangaroo
Yeah,
starts with K.
it does. That's true. Yeah.
Goose
And a goose.
starts with G.
That's true. It does. Very
Who
good.
has a hairy body? The snake.
Do I think the snake has a hairy body? Okay, the king of the land made one of the Israelites, Daniel, his chief servant. But the king's other servants were jealous of Daniel and his power. They got the king to make a new law saying that the people of Israel could not pray to God. But Daniel went on praying to God, and the king found out. The king liked Daniel and did not want to hurt him, but he did not want to go against his own law either. So he ordered that Daniel be put to death by throwing him in a den of savage lions. Daniel was thrown in the lion's den, and the den was closed up. Those are the happiest lions ever. Like, hey, dinner! Sweet! The next day, the king came to open the den. When the king and his servants looked inside, they saw Daniel petting the lions. One of the lions was licking Daniel's hand. Everyone was amazed to find that Daniel was unhurt. Oh, that one's cuddling him. That's sweet. The king was happy his servant Daniel was safe. He understood that God had protected Daniel. So the king made a law saying that all in the land should respect Daniel's God, and that Daniel and his people should worship him in peace.
Starts with you.
Jonah and the great fish. Jonah 1.
Yay!
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. Time to baby. Yay!
Yeah.
Time to beat the urchin.
Jonah was a prophet of God. God told him to go to the city of Nineveh and teach the people to stop doing wicked things. But Jonah did not want to go. Instead, he ran away. He got on a ship to cross the sea. As Jonah sailed away on the ship, a great storm came. The sailors were afraid the ship would sink. Jonah told the sailors that God was angry with him. He said that to save their ship, they should throw him overboard. And that is what the frightened sailors did. Jonah sank down under the waves and was swallowed by a great fish. Okay. Inside the belly of the fish, Jonah prayed to God. "O Lord, all your waves are passed over me, yet I will look toward your holy temple. Salvation is of the Lord." And look, there's a fish, and he is very confused. It's like a little question mark above his head and everything. What are you saying, man? Probably more like, what are you doing in here? God heard Jonah's prayer and made the fish spit Jonah out on dry land. Then God told Jonah again to go and preach in Nineveh. This time, Jonah obeyed. And then we're going to get into the New Testament. So, you know what? I'm going to stop us there for tonight. We're at 19 minutes. That's pretty close. So I think that's a good spot to stop. Right? What are your thoughts on that, little girl?
The elephant.
Oh, you're so sleepy. Oh, you're so sleepy, Poppy. Yeah. Okay. All right, sweet boy. I think it's time for bed.
Horse or the elephant. Elephant.
Okay.
Elephant. Or
now.
the elephant.
All right.
With
Here we go.
E.
We're gonna get down here. All right. Well, it's another chunk of the book done. I know we'll for sure keep going tomorrow. I don't know if we'll have a part 4 for Saturday, but we'll see where we get to at that point, right? Hey, where you going? It's bedtime. This one. He has been a sassy butt all day, making me crazy. Anyway, all right, guys. Well, we will see you all tomorrow night. Okay? Good night. End? Apparently not. Oh, there we go.